Welcome to Caffè Fibonacci once again. Last episode we talked about transparency and transparency flattening. This time we're going to talk about, well, workflow, print production workflow. What happens to your document, whether it's PostScript or PDF? What is the difference between a PostScript workflow and a pure PDF workflow? We're going to be focusing on that, and we've got an interview with a product manager from Adobe in San Jose that hopefully you'll find very interesting. I thought it was great. So right now on my screen I have some slides. And the first thing we want to talk about, we smashed this cake here. We flattened this cake in the last episode in order to help illustrate what happens when your lovely document with layered objects and live transparency gets sort of shoehorned or compressed into the smaller universe that is the PostScript language.
Yeah, and we said it still tastes like a cake, but
still tastes like cake. It still looks like my design document, but it's constructed completely differently. It's not the same thing that I originally designed. It's been changed inexorably. Well, what's the reason for that? Why is PDF different from PostScript? So here I have this slide on my machine here that goes through some bullet points on PostScript and PDF. And I'm not going to dwell on each bullet point, but the main thing to be aware of here is that PostScript was a page description language that was designed many years ago, originally defined many years ago, and it's been revised and updated. But its basic architecture is such that it's an interpretive programming language, and it supports embedded job controls, and it's also opaque. It's got an opaque imaging model. It's two-dimensional. It doesn't support layered objects or live transparency. And it just is what it is. On the other hand, PDF is not a programming language. It's a page description language. And PDF content is page independent, and it's also device independent. Unlike PostScript, which is device dependent, which means that it's targeted at a specific version of PostScript and a specific flavor of PostScript for a specific output device.
That's when you print to PostScript, you choose a printer and a PPD and all that stuff?
That's right, yeah. PPD helps your machine basically write PostScript that's optimized for a particular device, the way a particular device works. PDF is not that way. PDF is a device-dependent description language. It's also easily viewed in Acrobat and Reader, whereas PostScript is not necessarily. It also supports ICC color management. PostScript does not. The color management, if there is any in your PostScript, it's proprietary. But most importantly, in the context of our discussion, is that it's a transparent imaging model. It supports live, stacked, layered objects that are transparent and can interact with the transparency live, whereas PostScript just simply can't do that. And that is why PostScript has to flatten your document and cut it up into jigsaw puzzle pieces in order to simulate the look of the transparency that you created, but it's not live anymore.
And I think it's interesting also to see the standards down there, the PDF X1A and the PDF X3, which actually required the PDF to be flattened.
Yes.
And PDF X4, which came out in 2007, actually allows for transparency and layers inside of the PDF. So also the standards are moving towards layered information, not flattened.
Yeah, and there's some very good reasons for that. So let's move on to our next slide. Now, why is there a natural movement toward a PDF workflow and not a PostScript workflow? Well, the main reason is you guys out there. Nobody's ever 100% happy with their software. They always want it to do more. As soon as you release a new version, it takes about 2 months for people to play with it and start designing new things, and then we start getting the feature requests for more stuff. Yes. The fact is that right now, today, with CS3, and this was also true in CS and CS2, your design tools like Illustrator and InDesign are now enabling you to create layouts that go beyond what PostScript was ever designed to support. The design tools have now outstripped what PostScript can do. And that is why we have to have things like a technology like the flattener to take all this live transparency and gradients, interactions of gradients and blend modes and all that, and to dumb it down effectively into two-dimensional PostScript. But with its drop shadows or layers, feathering, variable opacity, the designs are just getting more and more complex. People want more simulating visual information, whether it's in a newspaper, magazine, or advertising environment. Now, the biggest obstacle to productivity. Any designer who designs, they can have a wonderful time putting stuff together in Illustrator and InDesign, but what did you have to teach your design students about handing those files off and getting them to print? Did you tell them about sometimes the violence that's done or the problems that's created?
In the past?
Yes.
Yes, well, first of all, there's always used to be problems, and print shops actually had the opportunity to work on these problems because they would work on the native files. That's how it used to work in the past. But now that PDF came into play, and especially if they're flattened, print shops can't do anything to them anymore. So all these, then they have to call back the designer and say, hey, can you redo that PDF with another flattener option, or something went wrong. It's kind of a difficult workflow.
So some designers believe that if they give their service provider a PDF, that there shouldn't be any problems at all. They might believe that if they natively export a PDF from either Illustrator or InDesign, for example, that it's going to stay a PDF until print time. But is that true?
That's not always the case.
In fact, it's more often than not it is not the case. And what they actually have is a workflow where their PDF is converted to some sort of intermediate format, maybe EPS, maybe some proprietary format, and then it might be dumped back out again as a PDF, but it's different.
Yes. And there we have color shifts. We have resampling. Oh, there we go. That's
let's look at what can happen as the document is moved through different file formats and what can happen because of transformations. For example, your image quality can be degraded because of JPEG compression that's added along the way. This is one of the worst things. If you already have a CMYK document and it gets converted to another CMYK color space, that's really bad. It's much better. It's much more optimal to leave your data in RGB in a PDF and not do the CMYK conversion until the very end, until you know which device is being targeted.
As we can see on your slide also, the RGB color space is much bigger than any of the CMYK spaces. So we have access to much more information.
So, for example, if you're doing designs and you want PDFs to archive, maybe you want to reuse this design at some point in the future. I've been in conferences and I've advocated an RGB workflow. Leave your images in RGB so there's as much color information as possible, and don't do an RGB to CMYK conversion until right at separation time.
But that's a really hard thing to push through because we've been used to converting everything to CMYK during the whole of the 90s, and print shops wouldn't even accept files if they were not in CMYK. So we used to lose a lot of time taking all of our TIFFs and EPS files or Photoshop files and transforming them into CMYK prior to putting them on page.
Yeah, and this is really a separate discussion that would veer into color management and all those related subjects. But the bottom line is that ideally, in an ideal PDF workflow, an ideal PDF color managed workflow, all of your image data would be in RGB, and it wouldn't be until actual separation time when that PDF is sent to an image setter and separated when would that CMYK conversion be done. Not in advance, but at separation time, optimized for the particular devices that it's going to be, that they're going to produce the print job, basically. Here's our vocabulary word for the day, orthogonal.
Yes.
Do you know what orthogonal means? I actually looked this up the other day.
Okay, you did well because I have no idea what that means.
Okay, non-orthogonal image rotations are bad because it actually changes the arrangement of pixels in your image. Orthogonal means basically 90-degree increments.
Okay,
so if you're rotating your images at non-90-degree increments, you only want to do that once.
So there's some anti-aliasing happening there or something like that?
Yeah, but your pixels will get scrambled up, whereas they'll get modified and changed because it's not an orthogonal rotation. Okay. So let's talk about some other things that can happen. When you're going into PostScript or going into flattened PDF, things like RGB to CMYK conversions happen at that time. Trapping also has to happen at that time as well. And but the problem is you'd better get it right the first time. If you're not sure what your final output path is going to be, you risk creating traps, for example, that are incorrect because trapping is dependent on the target color space and the inks and the press conditions and what's going on with transparency. Also, transparency flattening itself is dependent on target color space and the target resolution of the output device. And the halftoning, same thing. So what we're trying to get across here is that when you flatten something into PostScript or PDF 1.3, it's kind of an all or nothing decision if you want a PDF that's optimized or a PostScript file that's optimized for your output. You have one chance to get it right.
Yep.
Making further transformations down the line is not going to give you optimal quality at all. So for example, what if I've trapped a file and it goes into PDF and then suddenly I need to touch this up and make a change? Well, if it's already trapped, I have a problem.
Because the trap is actually a stroke.
Yeah, the trap is a stroke. It's not a live editable character, so that's highly inconvenient. Well, what is Adobe doing to try and solve this problem and make life better for us as designers? In 2007, Adobe announced a technology called the PDF Print Engine that we have made available to our OEM partners. The PDF Print Engine is a RIP that doesn't use PostScript. It rips PDF directly. Okay? So the PDF Print Engine enables you to have a complete PDF workflow and never have to force your live transparency into flattening into PostScript, basically.
Until it becomes a plate.
Right. It does not get flattened, or it's never flattened. It's just the live PDF data is separated in the PDF RIP. It just removes PostScript from the process and all the limitations of PostScript and all the potential problems that can come from doing that. Here's a list of just some of the benefits of a PDF Print Engine workflow, and that includes controlling jobs with JDF, the fact that native PDF and live transparency give you rendering with no flattening involved, and it would basically help you streamline the production of a complex PDF artwork. What you see is what you print. If you've got a PDF Print Engine workflow, and this is really important. In the old days, I remember Freehand and Illustrator were essentially just visual front ends for authoring PostScript.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's changed. InDesign, Acrobat, and Illustrator use a display model called AGM, Adobe Graphics Manager, and it's essentially display PDF. So now these applications, InDesign, Illustrator, and Acrobat, are essentially front ends for authoring PDF. And so in the same way that in the old days, what you see is what you got authoring PostScript in Illustrator, it's now the same thing in the PDF environment. These applications are able to do live transparency and do some of the beautiful effects that they do because they're building your document using the PDF object model and all the richness that is entailed in that model.
So we would still have a cake.
We would still have a cake. It would taste good, and it would still have all of its layers intact. The third bullet there, faster rendering of sophisticated design elements. We're going to have an interview with PDF Print Engine product manager Mark Lewicki after this slideshow, and he's going to discuss with us some of the performance. For example, the performance advantages of a PDF Print Engine workflow. I've heard some statistics about complicated files with lots of transparency rendering in a quarter of the time or 1/10 of the time it would take through a traditional PostScript RIP.
That's kind of important because also rendering times and production times are therefore short too.
Time is money when you're talking about those big systems and those big machines. So here's a summary of what the PDF Print Engine is about. It's about pure PDF and JDF workflows, native PDF rendering, no intermediate steps with PostScript and having to dumb your file down so it fits within the PostScript model. Live transparency, no flattening, live ICC color management, including device link profile and high-fidelity color support. Trapping, which is optional, can be done in RIP separation, and imposition, screening controls, etc. It supports initially PDF 1.6, so that's Acrobat 7 format, and is part of the ISO PDFX4 draft specification. And the architecture enables rapid PDF version support upgrades actually in the field. For more information, you can get more information about the PDF Print Engine down at the URL here at the bottom of this slide that we will also flash up on your screen. It's up on the Adobe website, and you can get look at some white papers and other information. It's also important to mention what the PDF Print Engine is not. it's not a total replacement for PostScript. PostScript is not going away anytime soon because there are a lot of applications and workflows that are still very, very PostScript-centric, and Adobe is going to keep supporting and enhancing PostScript 3 as long as there's a demand for it. So the PDF Print Engine is not motivating us to just ignore PostScript altogether.
It's not like we're forcing anyone to have the cake instead of the flattened cake.
You can still have your cake and flatten it too if you want to. It's also not available directly from Adobe Systems to end users. PDF Print Engine is available from our OEM partners, from the people that make RIPs, and they are integrating this technology into the products that they deliver. There's some interesting things that the PDF Print Engine is going to allow these vendors to do. Just as one example, being able to preview the actual halftones and screens on your display to see exactly how this thing is going to separate and image is rather spectacular. And here is a list of our OEM partners and that have products right now today that are delivered with the PDF Print Engine. So there's Agfa, Fujifilm, Heidelberg, Kodak, Kodak Nexpress, Zante, Ripit, and Screen, and along with URLs there that you can use to get more information, and then the product names: Apogee, XMF, Prinect, MetaDimension 6.5, Printergy, NextStation, V System, OpenRip Symphony, TrueFlow, LE, and SE. So these are all solutions that are available today that use the Adobe PDF Print Engine, and so this product is out there. So if you're doing a lot of work and doing complex designs with a lot of transparency, and if you've had problems getting your jobs to image correctly, I would strongly urge you to start looking around for someone that has one of these systems from one of our OEM partners, because it could dramatically change your production life.
It just makes things safer to image.
The designers can just design. We've had feedback from people that have been testing and using these products, and they basically say flat out, look, you can now tell your designers to go wild, because whatever they see on screen in InDesign and Illustrator, you don't have to worry about whether or not any particular device in the world is going to be able to image it correctly using a PostScript RIP. Okay, so and this is the feedback directly from the people that have been testing this, and it's really quite exciting, and it basically liberates the designer, and they can just go nuts being creative, and what they see on their screen is what they're going to get actually on their film and on their plates.
Finally.
So there you go, Better by Adobe. We're going to now transition to our interview with PDF Print Engine Product Manager Mark Lewicki and see what he has to say. We're here now with Product Manager of the Adobe PDF Print Engine, Mark Lewicki, who's talking to us from Canada, right?
That's right. I'm based in Toronto.
Okay. And what we want to talk about today, basically three things. The first thing is why a PDF Print Engine, what was wrong with a PostScript workflow, and once we talk about what's wrong with a PostScript workflow, how PDF Print Engine fixes that. And then we want to talk about what the actual users of the PDF Print Engine are telling us now that it's hit the market and been out for a while.
Right.
And then the third thing we want to discuss is are the new features that have arrived in the PDF Print Engine version 2, including variable data.
Okay.
So starting off with item number one, PostScript. When we introduced transparency into InDesign and Illustrator feature sets, Adobe officially crossed the boundaries of what PostScript was designed to handle or describe.
That's right.
So what happened was when designers started using all these cool effects, they of course wanted them to print, and Adobe had to build, Adobe and other companies had to build flattening technology, which would take like a three-dimensional stack of objects and describe it in a flat PostScript object model, right?
Yeah, actually, let me just jump in here, Tim. First of all, I want to say that PostScript is a strong, viable page description language. It's used by 99% of all rendering engines today for graphically rich content in the print industry. And Adobe intends to continue to support PostScript well into the future. We have no plans to eliminate it. But in fact, it is a 25-year-old imaging model, and PDF does go beyond it, as you pointed out.
And so the reason for the PDF Print Engine was that we wanted to provide a workflow that didn't involve an intermediate translation step from the PDF object model into the flattened PostScript model, and then separation imaging on a RIP.
That's right. Adobe applications have been able to export PDF natively, Illustrator and InDesign, for example, for several versions now, and they produce a very high quality PDF which takes advantages of the full feature set of the PDF imaging model, which is the dominant imaging model in the industry today for the exchange of graphically rich content. However, ultimately, even in PDF workflows, which are extremely reliable today, ultimately at the very end, the job had to be changed back into PostScript, and that involved flattening that transparency. And Adobe PostScript products, the configurable PostScript interpreter, it has included a component which converts PDF to PostScript in the RIP, and it does a good job of it. But there are cases, edge cases, corner cases, call them what you want, where even there are discrepancies between what a user will see in Acrobat or Reader and what they will get when the ink finally hits the paper.
And so the PDF Print Engine was designed to enable our users to stay within the PDF world, the PDF universe, which supports transparency. And so they can create a high-res, archivable, non-device dependent PDF, and that PDF is preserved all the way through up to the time of separation because it's rendered directly by the PDF Print Engine.
Yeah, and that's a very good point you're making, Tim, that the goal of PDF should always be device independent. You want to capture the content at the highest level of abstraction and then render it to the best, render it with the best ability of any given device, which might different output devices have different characteristics. So the goal is to enable an end-to-end PDF workflow from authoring through validation and pre-flight and all of that, sharing, collaboration, to printing, staying with this richer imaging model, the PDF.
Okay, so now
the PDF Print Engine sort of completes that gap or fills that hole in our end-to-end PDF workflow story by eliminating the need to go down to PostScript just prior to rendering.
So now I know that we had a library of problem customer files, the edge cases that you mentioned. We had quite a number of those that we had collected from customers in order to improve our flattener and to test our flattening technology. What happened when we took those edge case documents and instead of running them through a PostScript RIP, ran them through the new PDF Print Engine that we were testing?
So these files would, which when run through PostScript would come out with anomalies and artifacts. These could include the infamous white box effect when drop shadows were used. It might look good on your monitor, but when printed, there'd be this strange ghostly white box. Another area of problem was the spot colors. When they were transparent or they interacted with other transparent objects, the results were not as expected, not what was on the screen. But when run through the PDF Print Engine, they appeared and separated and printed, ink on paper. They appeared exactly as the designer designed them, as they looked in InDesign and in Reader or Acrobat.
Okay, so essentially what we saw firsthand was that by skipping that step, that PostScript step, and rendering that PDF data directly, having a RIP that understands PDF and rips that PDF directly, solved those transparency problems. So now designers can pretty much design what they want to design without having to worry about it. The PDF Print Engine basically alleviates a lot of production worries and anxieties because of that direct translation.
Yeah, I want to make very clear that it is entirely possible using a PostScript RIP to build a job in InDesign or other authoring application and get what you want. But you have to follow a set of best practices, and they're documented on the adobe.com website. The order that you stack things and what's adjacent to what and all the rest of it. You can get exactly what you want. The beauty of the PDF Print Engine is you can just go crazy. You can design it any way you want with a high level of confidence that what you design will come out just as expected.
Well, yeah, because the reality right now is that production people are used to getting designs, layouts handed off to them from the designers, and knowing that they're going to have a fair amount of work in order to check this and tweak this so that they can make the designer happy, so the designer's more likely to get what the designer intends, right? And what we're talking about here is drastically reducing that intermediate process.
Exactly. If you think about it, the job of the designer and the job of the prepress operator is very different. The designer's job is to create something visually compelling, and the job of the prepress operator is to ensure that it gets reproduced as desired on press. And it's good to have an exchange format that you can trust to make that translation. So yes.
Okay. So now I think.
Did I answer your question? I think I missed something there.
No, I think you did.
Do you want to ask it again?
No, I think you're fine.
Okay. Okay.
I think the most important thing that we can share with people though is this PDF Print Engine has been available in products from our OEM partners for well over a year now.
That's right.
And so, what are the actual?
We launched this at the.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. What are the actual customers saying? The printers and service providers that are using these new PDF RIPs. What are they telling us about their experiences with it, both as far as with regard to reliability and predictability and performance?
There are over 3,000 units of the PDF Print Engine in production right now, largely in CTP workflows. The PDF Print Engine is an SDK. It's a technology that gets incorporated into products by the industry-leading vendors. You know the names: Agfa, Fujifilm, Heidelberg, Kodak, Zonte, Screen. They all have products in the market today, and the response from their customers, which are our customers, has been overwhelmingly favorable. Here's a quote from Patrick Stewart from the Bureau in Milwaukee. He says, with the Adobe PDF Print Engine solution, our ability to get everything right the first time is close to approaching 100%. And this is representative of the feedback we're hearing across the board, that productivity goes up because that handoff is much more reliable. And you can automate till you're blue in the face, but if you have to send the job back to the customer to get it fixed, to the designer to get it fixed, to change something, that is the biggest obstacle to productivity in pre-press workflows today.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that. Who else do you have? Do you have comments from other people besides from beyond Milwaukee?
Yes, I do. We have feedback from Australia. Tony McLaughlin, who runs a printing service for the University of Southern Queensland in Australia, says that based on benchmark tests, files are rendering twice as fast as they would compared to our previous system. And we've heard similar reports of performance gains from a company called Control S in Stuttgart, Germany, where they're saying that preparing a file for accurate printing now happens as much as 50% faster as compared with previous processes. So these differences in speed claims are really about end-to-end overall throughput based on the greater reliability as well as the greater performance of the print engine itself. Yeah, so Martin says that during their testing, they ran it in parallel with the previous system, and as a result, they made a direct comparison and were very impressed by the better speed, fault tolerance, and security of the Adobe solution. So these are representative comments from the end users.
Okay, so it sounds
Printers.
like on a technology level, this is a big leap forward for the production community, and it's a big leap forward for the designers because they wind up getting bothered less.
They get bothered less by the printer asking them to make changes, and they can just go crazy with their designs, knowing that they'll get reproduced as they expect.
So everybody wins. That's the bottom line, Mark. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Yes.
Okay. Well, what we want to do next is look at what's new in Adobe Print Engine, PDF Print Engine version 2, because that was announced at Drupa earlier this year in 2008. And so we want to talk a little bit about what's new there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the display here a little bit. So I'm going to take our faces off the screen and we're going to switch to your slideshow. Okay, Mark, why don't you tell us now what's new in version 2 of the PDF Print Engine, which was announced at Drupa 2008.
So the PDF Print Engine version 2 builds on the strengths and the success of version 1. It's the next generation PDF native renderer. And the main headline story, I guess, is that we're finally fulfilling the promise of variable data printing by enabling end-to-end PDF workflow for graphically rich personalized publishing. And believe it or not, PDF is not a viable format for many types of VDP printing today, so that printers have to have two different workflows, one for non-variable jobs and one for variable jobs. So in effect, the PDF Print Engine 2 serves as an on-ramp to printers with PDF workflows today. It enables them to add a new job type, VDP, using the same workflow they use today for their non-variable workflows. And if they're doing this on digital presses or an offset printer is adding a digital press, they now have the ability to use a single workflow. That's not the case today. They need one workflow for the VDP jobs based on these specialized VDP formats, and a separate workflow for their non-variable jobs, which are typically based on PDF. So that's of great benefit to the prepress operator, digital printers, and offset printers. To the marketers, business users, and designers, use of PDF throughout the workflow will simplify and standardize all the sharing and collaboration that needs to go into any successful job. They might use PDF for that today. The trouble is when the job finally gets rendered, PDF is not being used and discrepancies can occur. So PDF Print Engine enables a single unified workflow for all job types on both digital and offset printing. So we've added some new optimizations. Specifically, we've enabled caching for the repeating elements in a VDP job. So in this example here, the images are different in each recipient as well as the recipient's names, but the background is the same. And with the PDF Print Engine, we render it once, cache it, and then merge it with the variable data. And this is in fact what the specialized VDP languages do, but they don't have all the benefits of PDF, namely being portable, being viewable in the free Adobe Reader by anybody without any special knowledge of these specialized formats such as PPML and others. So we've also optimized for the lower resolutions characteristic of the digital presses. And this illustration here captures the concept of a VDP optimized form of PDF at the center of the workflow with the data and images being poured into the authoring templates, either InDesign or plugins to InDesign or standalone third-party applications using the PDF library to create this new form of VDP optimized PDF. And then, of course, this is a regular PDF file. It has some special characteristics, but it can be viewed in the reader, proofed to a local printer, and archived in a way that can be easily retrieved. And it can also be printed now to a PDF Print Engine-driven digital press with a high degree of reliability.
Can you explain to us a little bit about this new VDP standard in PDF?
So I referred to VDP optimized PDF. This has been recognized by the broader industry. All the VDP authoring applications is a very desirable format, that PDF has a lot of benefits and advantages for exchanging VDP jobs. And an ISO committee has been formed. ISO is the International Standards Organization, to develop a new specification for VDP jobs, and it's being called PDF/VT. The V stands for variable, and the T stands for transactional, which is in the high volume space of digital printing, the statements of utility bills and credit cards and so on. And this standards body, it will define a very well-defined subset of the PDF language, which is optimized for use in printing of VDP jobs. So that's it in a nutshell.
Well, okay, so probably the main new feature then of the PDF Print Engine 2 is support for this standard that enables a variable data publishing workflow within the confines of PDF. So you don't have to leave your PDF workflow for a variable data job.
That's exactly right, but I should be clear that the standard is a work in progress. It's a number of different vendors, both hardware and software, sit on this committee, and the standard is not expected to be finalized until sometimes next year. So the most important piece is don't include any repeating elements, any repeating content in the PDF file, and that is supported in the PDF Print Engine today. But the authoring applications are looking into some of the additional features, such as metadata, which subdivides the PDF file so you can actually know where one record begins or ends, which is very useful for runtime imposition, stapling, identifying where to restart a job if a paper got jammed in the printer, and other uses. You've got a long print run, you have to know what all those pages are. What do you do with a 10,000 page PDF file? When you open that in Reader, how do you navigate it? You want to be able to know what the records are and how they're grouped together by postal code or other criteria. So that's important, not just for the printers, but for human operators as well.
Okay. Well, yeah, and we do want to be kind to the human operators, don't we? We're not just about machines.
Yes.
We care about the human beings involved, and I think that's clear. That's it. Thank you very, very much for your time. We really appreciate your explaining this to us. If people want more information about everything that we've discussed, they can get this on the PDF Print Engine pages up on the Adobe website, correct?
That's right. We have a 4-minute animation. We have some white papers. We have 4 links to 4 different success stories and growing, so you can read about the experiences of other people in the field. And
can you just quick rattle off a list of our OEM partners that are producing products now with the PDF Print Engine?
In the market today, we have products from Kodak, AGFA, Heidelberg, Dalim, Fujifilm, Zonte, and Screen. We also have announcements from EFI, Xerox, GMG, and Dalim, and OSE as well. So I would expect to see products in the market from these vendors in the near future.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you very much for your time and for explaining this to us, and hopefully we'll see you again here on Caffè Fibonacci.
Okay, Tim, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Mark. Goodbye. So special thanks to Mark Lewicki for joining us today on Caffè Fibonacci.
That was really interesting. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Hopefully this has been educational, instructive, and enjoyable for you. Keep looking for new episodes of Caffè Fibonacci, and hopefully we'll see you here again soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.